I think we should be good to start. Alright, so I thought we could start just by showing you guys the business a bit. I think, I don't know, like, please, I know like couple of you guys have been in sessions with us before, some of you haven't, so like, feel free to ask me questions right now, right? That's kind of the whole point. So, essentially, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna go through. So this is acquire.com. It's the startup marketplace which has all these startups for sale. And on this, we're going to be looking at a business that's essentially a Star Wars media business. So they have a newsletter that has about 6,000 subscribers. Wait, can I open? Can you guys see the listing over here? All the details. So it's a newsletter that has about 6,000 subscribers.
Are
Facebook.
you sharing screen?
Oh, am I not sharing my screen?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's my bad. Oh yeah, I wasn't sharing my screen.
Yeah,
Okay,
works now.
that's my bad. Thanks for that, Marco. Yeah. Wait, do y'all see this thing on the side? Is it like covering your view? Or no?
Yep.
Oh, you do? Okay, okay. Let me just put that there. Alright. So yeah, so this is acquire.com, the startup marketplace that we all know and love. So this is the specific business that we've been looking at. It's a Star Wars media business. It has a couple of different aspects to it. So first is the newsletter that has about 6,000 subscribers. I have access to the newsletter backend as well, so we can take a look at that in a minute. But in terms of social pages, they have a Facebook page which has about 39,000 likes and followers, and they have an Instagram page with 7,500 followers, X or Twitter with almost 5,000 followers. So, across platforms, almost like 65,000 followers, right? More than that. Of course, most of that is Facebook, and the newsletter is definitely the most powerful one because that's the most that's direct to the audience, right? So then it's like, okay, now that we understand that this Star Wars media business has all these different aspects under it, what does it do, right? What kind of a business is it? So this is what I actually like most about it. All of the newsletters that it sends are all just about Star Wars products, right? So stuff like this T-shirt, and it's not very like complicated Star Wars products either. The whole newsletter, the entire point is actually all the best, the best loot from Star Wars. So like the best goods, the best products. And until now, the newsletter has been pre-revenue because it doesn't have any goods of its own, nor is it promoting, nor does it have any partnerships with the goods that it promotes, right? Right now, it just organically finds them and posts about them. So stuff like just different Star Wars products, and yeah, there's they have a lot of different products that they've covered. So the newsletter is tri-weekly, so it's thrice a week, every couple of days. Right now, the current owner has a VA working on it. So let's actually look a bit more specifically at the stuff that he sent us. So this is a record of all of the products that they've already used. And as you can see, it's like, wait, let me zoom out. It's like pretty long, there's like a very, very long list. So I think we can easily call back upon this list, because yeah, I think we don't need to be including new products every week, right? And reducing it from 3 a week to once a week. And he also sent us these, so I've included the links to all of these in the Google Meet description if you all want to check them out yourself. um, But yeah, he's also included, the different systems that he uses. Okay, how do you source products? Where do you find them? How do you do it? How do you create the newsletter? Writing, formatting, the scheduling, social media scheduling, right? So it's actually it. This makes the transition process for us a lot easier, and it also allows for us to plan for a VA to do it, right? Because I actually don't think, unless there's somebody in the club who really wants to find Star Wars products, besides using something like a scraper or figuring out some way to automate it, I don't really want somebody from the club to be, finding like 50 products each week, right? Because that's what they're doing right now, right? So I think we can initially call upon like this database, and then actually either hire a VA ourselves or figure out some way to automate this. So yeah, that's the stuff that he sent us. I just want to check in with you guys. I know I'm giving a lot of information. If y'all have any questions or anything like that, and then if not, we can actually just take a look at the beehive itself, and then once you have all of the information about the business, we're gonna discuss plans with it and stuff like that. Yeah, sorry, Oscar, your hand is raised.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, dude?
So, yeah, you mentioned it was pre-revenue, and so I skimmed the meeting that you uploaded with the seller,
Yeah.
and he mentioned something about getting some revenue from like directing people to other newsletters
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
something. So does that count?
It
How are
does.
we?
It does. So the reason why I say pre-revenue is because he's basically getting like 60 cents per subscriber. So on average, he's every subscriber that he gains, he's getting 60 cents, right? But earlier he was gaining subscribers through Facebook ads, so he was paying for them, right? So he was actually paying for 40 cents per subscriber through Facebook ads, and he had a little leverage of like 20 cents, right? But that's also wait, I think I have to let somebody in.
So pre-profit.
Yeah, so pre-profit exactly, because it's making some revenue, but I don't think it's enough to be like, oh yeah, like it's definitely uh like it's making profit, it's making revenue. I think we should take it at the face value of being pre-revenue with having all of these different potentials, because yeah, I don't think it's been explored as much. But yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate you going through the meeting. I think that had a lot of really interesting information. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for uploading.
Yeah, of course. Um, Oh yeah, so Tudor, I'm gonna take you through the Beehive in just a second, and that's actually the newsletter management platform that will answer all of your questions. So yeah, does anybody else have a question right now? Awesome. So moving on to the Beehive itself. This is my newsletter. Uh, okay, yeah. So this is their newsletter. So let's look at the last. Okay, this is not a great quarter to date. Nope. Year to date. Yeah. So like through this we get a good sense of what their growth has looked like, what their open rates are, right? So they have about 43% open rate. That's pretty good. I'd say industry standard is like around 40%. That's a good number to be at. 6% click through rate is really good. That means that there's a lot of people actually clicking on the products, right? That's really important for us, because our whole thing is that the reason why I really like this newsletter is because the people subscribing have a high intent to buy, right? They're subscribing to find out about Star Wars products. So that intention to buy is already there, and a high click through rate means that there are a lot of people who are interested in the products that he's been sending so far, right? And then looking at the audience a little bit. So in the last year, he's gained about 1,000 subscribers, but Yeah, honestly, really good growth. His growth plateaued a lot recently because he stopped paying for Facebook ads, right? So he was paying to drive his growth a lot, and I think that once we're able to start making some decent revenue, we can see very really great growth ourselves, right? So as you can see, like this Facebook lead is actually Facebook ads, right? So he's gotten almost 4,000 subscribers from Facebook ads, and couple of others from like the website, Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. But Facebook ads is by far the highest, right? Then looking at engagement specifically, this is really great, right? So even if you just look at the engagement in the last week, um, 46% open rate, click through rate is down. So the click through rate, as you see, like 4 to 6% is a massive drop, right? So like a 20% drop. So click through rate will vary week by week depending on how good the newsletters themselves are. But 5,500 is a great amount of impressions, right? Especially if you're saying that 4% of that many people are clicking on something, right? That's like what, 200 clicks. That's a pretty good, even if you're presuming like a 1% conversion rate to those clicks. If you're selling something for like $50, that's like $100 worth of sales per week, and that's like you're really going being very conservative in terms of conversion, right? And if we look at so we can look at, feel free to, like, if y'all are interested in anything specifically about what I'm talking about, feel free to cut me off and like ask me to go in deep about something, because otherwise I'll just like keep talking about it. um
Yeah, if we could go back to audience, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah, if we could scroll down to top referrers, I'm just curious, what do they consider a referrer in the first place? And then I
So
was thinking that as we go into starting the due diligence process, perhaps it will be interesting to meet with some of these people that have like higher accounts, because certainly there's some
that's
value
a
being
good
created
point.
for them. So I'll be interested in like learning what is it that they care about.
That's a great point. So he actually has a referral program that he's been running, where if you get if you get a certain amount of referrals, you get like some kind of sticker bundle, and so that's where the referrals have been coming from. I think we should switch this to some kind of digital product, um, something like, I don't know, like a Star Wars wallpaper, something cool like that. I think that would be cheap and something that people will like and make it easy for them to get. So we definitely want to gamify this referral system more. He's not been It's definitely an underutilized system, and yeah, I think that's a good idea, right? We can definitely hit all of these guys. Actually, so we can actually break down his we can segment the audience into people that do referrals, um, extremely active people, right? So with over 90% open rate, people that came in from Reddit. So you can actually create a segment in a really interesting way, right? So you can be like highly engaged, um, dynamic segment, because you want it to keep like refreshing. You don't want it to just be static. And then yeah, so you add a condition like, okay, engagement is, or not engagement, let's do open rate is greater than or equal to 75%, right? And you can add like a bunch of other things. Even like, I think filtering by location is going to be really important for us. um, So yeah, and then you get like, okay, like okay, that's that's a lot more subscribers than I thought it would be. That's actually really cool. So like 2,000 of them have a regular open rate of 90%. So there's clearly a very strong like segment of this base that regularly opens emails, right? So we definitely want to be hitting these lists often. Honestly, I wouldn't want to sell lists initially, but as we build this up, this can be a list that, like, we sell ads specifically to these guys, right? Where we just send out like a special edition, something like that. Um, So yeah, there's a lot of interesting information you can get from these
Mhm.
from these.
Just
Yeah.
just two quick follow-ups there.
Yeah.
Also, that's really cool. I didn't know you can do
Yeah,
that with Beehive.
it is pretty good.
But how much does Beehive charge per month for using this platform? And also, what percentage of all subscribers are based out of the US?
Yeah, so let's actually let's figure that out while I answer the questions. So I'd say that wait, what was your how much so Beehive is $50 a month and $100 a month if you have three newsletters. And I have two other newsletters, which one just crossed the Beehive limit for 20. So Beehive has a thing about anything above 2,500 subscribers, and you have to pay. So my other newsletter just crossed that, so I'm just paying for the 100 per month with that, and like covering this newsletter with that. So the club won't have to worry about Beehive cost, because I anyways have two newsletters, so it's not and much of an extra cost for me. Yeah.
But you only have to start paying after you reach the 25K threshold, correct?
Yeah, 2,500.
2,500. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's figure out where the from is from the US. Oh, I would think most of them, because I think everywhere he ran his Facebook ads was like US or North America.
Yeah, yeah. I'll hope so.
Yeah, because US is definitely a more valuable customer for sure, because they just have more disposable income. Maybe it actually doesn't track location. Let's see. Yeah, I think he's not tracking location. I didn't even think about that before. Let's see. Yeah. I'm guessing. Oh no. Oh, they're like all from the US pretty much.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
5K out of 6K?
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully I'm pretty sure this just shows, so it also shows people who've unsubscribed, so it's about 500 people who've unsubscribed. But yeah, honestly, even like the referral rate is pretty good. He has like a fairly highly engaged audience. But like honestly, if we look at when we look at the socials a bit, they're not as nowhere near as engaged.
Dev, do the people that have unsubscribed are the people that were removed from the newsletter included in that number or no?
They were included. Yeah, so in that 5,000 number, they were included. Okay, yeah, no. Let's get out of this. Let's do. Okay, so that's like a very good amount of information in terms of what this business looks like and what it does. Is there anything else you guys think y'all would want to talk about this? Because I think next we should talk about where we think where we see monetization opportunities, where we see growth, and finally decide whether or not we think this business is worth the acquisition. Awesome. So yeah, I think that we spent a while looking at this business. Now let's talk about monetization, right? So currently, as we have it, there's probably three ways for us to monetize right off the bat. So first is by subscriber referrals. So as I said, he was getting about 60 cents per subscriber, right, for each subscriber that he gained. That is, of course, very low. And unless we have, even if we're gaining like, 10 subscribers, 100 subscribers a month, it's not a great revenue source, but it's a really good revenue source to offset cost when gaining subscribers, right? So he was earlier using Facebook ads, which was like a really good way for him to gain subscribers. So at that time, he was, like I said earlier, he was gaining subscribers at 40 cents per subscriber. And you know so he had that 20-cent arbitrage per subscriber, which we'll want to increase how much the revenue we can get per subscriber and decrease the cost. There's a lot of different ways we can do that, but yeah, but we'll definitely need to start making revenue in the first place, right, for that. So what are the ways we can make revenue, right? So first of all is by sponsorships or affiliate links, right? So that's by reaching out to um, a bunch of different businesses, right? Star Wars related businesses, um, Etsy. So a lot of the goods right now that he features are all Etsy products, right? So we should get some kind of sponsorship deals with Etsy, with somebody from Etsy. We should have we should reach out to all of these individual Etsy sellers and ask them if they would offer us some kind of affiliate link, right? So what that would mean is that for all of the traffic that we send their way or every sale that we send their way, we get a cut of it, right? And something else that we can do is have like sponsorship slots, right, for Star Wars focused businesses, um, things like that. Yeah, so that is in terms of sponsors and affiliates. Do any of you guys have any ideas y'all would want to talk about, or yeah, questions? Because I don't really want this to be actually me talking. I want it to be more like a discussion, So yeah, where do you actually, what would be a better question? Where would you guys see weaknesses in like the plan that I'm talking about right now, right? I think that like I really want this to be like a discussion where we talk about this business and like the potential, right? And actually try to poke holes in our plan, because otherwise, yeah, we like this is a serious thing, right? Like we are planning to spend $3,000 to buy this business, right? So we should think it through. Yeah.
Hey, so I have an idea. This is not going to get us any recurring revenue, but in the beginning, we can sell the emails, and you can make about 100 to a couple $100 per 1,000 emails. That would give us, good money to work with in the beginning. Maybe we could put it back into ads. Only risk there, I'm sure there's more, and definitely let me know if any come up. But just devaluing our image a little bit. If people catch on that we gave out their email, then that's not really a great look. But if we can do it in a way that's, it's a little unethical, but it's also, it's a newsletter business.
No, I totally get what you mean. So I'm actually, I just created a Google Doc and I'm gonna send the link in the chat if you guys wanna add your yeah. So we'll actually keep track of ideas of that. So first of all, that's a really good idea. Monetizing your data is always a tricky kind of question in a sense, because you're right, there are a lot of people that think it is unethical. I think that it depends on the circumstances, right? But I will say that I don't think it makes sense for us to do it initially, right? Because I think that that's something that we can look much further down the line, when we first of all have a bigger list, right? Right now we just have 5,000 emails. That could be something that we look at when we have like something closer to like 10,000, 25,000. When we're able to then sell it in a package and in such a way that we can actually anonymize the data, we can like, where it's so large that it's actually not as much of a breach, I suppose. But of course there's there's like more nuances around that. So it's definitely a very like it's an idea we can keep on the back burner for now. But yeah, it's a good idea because it's a really good way to monetize the business. Yeah. So yeah, what do you guys think? You know, like what do y'all think about the Star Wars businesses? Right, I don't know if any of y'all are fans, but do you buy merch often of it? I know the Disney merch is super expensive, so there aren't a lot of options outside of that. But yeah, where do you think that like anybody like an online retailer would be willing to put an ad in our business, in the newsletter, in the Facebook page? Like, yeah, what do you think about that? I'm gonna call upon people otherwise, because like I do want this to be a discussion, and I do know y'all have thoughts, right? It's not like y'all have ideas, so I want to hear them. Please tell me that like this is a shit business and my ideas are terrible, because then we can actually talk about it.
I'm wondering, can we get any sort of commission-based affiliate link deal? Is that something that is common? I know there are certain YouTubers where, if they put a link to a partner brand in their description, they're going to get actual money based on how many people click on the link. Could we do something like that where there's like a direct, relationship? Maybe not even clicks, but like if we actually drive purchases, then we'll get more, stuff like that.
Yeah, so actually, that is exactly what we're gonna try to do. We're gonna have try to get some kind of affiliate commission based deals. I think that especially initially for us to have like predictable and consistent revenue, we would want to try to focus on the sponsorship model. But that's mainly just because so that we're not reliant on that commission, right? Just so that we can kind of have the sponsor. And I really think that by reaching out to like local businesses, especially, right? So like mom and pop stores, people that may have like an online presence but not much, right? They obviously need to have Star Wars goods, but I think that besides that, there's no other, like especially going for like a small business, right? Which like and just asking them, like $50 for a sponsorship on our Facebook page and on our newsletter, right? I really think that that's something that will convert well with like these smaller stores who may not generally try advertisements or anything like that, right? Because I think for them it's like, oh, it's like you can experiment. And yeah, I think that especially once we have a couple of like success stories, then there's a lot of potential for us, because um, then we can really reach out to people with like these success stories showing that this has worked, this hasn't, stuff like that. Yeah.
That's a great idea. I'm connected with a small sock store called Socks
Interesting.
Alito, and they sell a lot of Star Wars socks. And I'd be interested in reaching out to the owner and seeing if that's something that they'd be interested in.
That is extremely helpful. So that's exactly the kind of business that we would want to partner with, right? Like something that sells like a mass niche Star Wars product, right? Like socks, t-shirts, caps. We don't wanna like be selling like a $10,000 figurine. We wanna sell like mass like products that appeal to like a lot of people, because I do think that those are what have converted best, right? And I think that something that we should all do together actually is going into the weeds of the business and actually figuring out, okay, what are the goods that, like, people have clicked on before, what has done really well, stuff like that. I think that would be really interesting as well. But yeah, yeah, I think like, yeah, the stocks business would be really, really cool to have. Yeah, Marco.
I think there's like an underlying assumption here that the people that follow this newsletter are individuals that consume these goods, and I would like to test that because I feel like there's also a world in which it's not only individuals. Perhaps it's still the large majority, but there's a good percentage of people that are other retailers that are trying to see what other products are out there. So I'll just try to like really understand like who is it exactly that is subscribed, and whether it is actually individuals who are buying this, or it's people that own businesses and want to see what else is in the market.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get what you mean. So I would say, I think it's unlikely for a lot of them to be like owners of Star Wars businesses as such, especially because it's such a niche kind of thing. Something that we do need to be worried about is like which of them are just like window shoppers, right? Like just clicking on the links just to see it, because like that's it's going to show up in our engagement, but then it's not actually going to convert, right? So that's not very helpful, because like we'd much rather have like 1,000 subscribers where we know that, like, okay, 100 of them are going to click on it, 10 of them will buy for sure, right? Having that kind of certainty is very powerful, because then you can like um, go to sponsors with like very solid numbers, you know and like it's much easier to convert them rather than something that's kind of out of the blue, right? So yeah, so I'll actually say, like, let's run the numbers on this a little bit. Let me share my screen. Okay, yeah, can you see my screen? Awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, we're looking at buying this business for $3,000, right? That's what we're estimating. Cost to keep running it. If we hire the VA, so right now he's paying like $70 per week for the VA, right? Beehive is a cost of about $50 a month. If we would want, we can just have it there, but we're not incurring that cost, right? The VA as well is right now for 3 newsletters per week, right? I think that we can do 1 per week, and that will bring the new cost to something more. So this is for VA for 3 newsletters per week and social media scheduling, right? So it's like, and actually, sorry, and finding the goods, my bad. So that's what the cost is up till right now, right? It's $70 per week for all these different aspects. But if we change it to once a week, do the social schedule, like, so we keep the socials scheduling, but we go from finding products to just reaching back into our old database, right? And especially if we drop down to once per week, it's going to greatly reduce like the time being spent over there to find products, right? So the new cost, ideally, I think we can like drop it to at least $35 per week. So it's basically, right now it's like a breakdown of the cost is $10 per hour, and they're spending about 7 to 8 hours per week. So if we drop it down to this, I think that we can take it to like 3 to 4 hours a week, and then that will really allow us to like focus on monetization, right? So now we're like, okay, we've bought this business for 3,000. in order to keep running it, we have to spend $35 per week, right? And we obviously, so right now we have an initial budget of like about $4,000 in terms of how much we raised. If we need to, we can go out and raise more, but I think like we do want to try to do this with as little money as possible, right? I think that is one of the challenges that makes it fun. um so yeah, now let's talk about monetization, right? So what makes this worth it, right? So let's think about a future selling price. So my goal is to 5x what we buy it for, right? So we want to sell it for about 15,000. So let's break that down a little bit. In order to be selling something for 15,000, most things sell for about 2 to 3 times revenue, right? So this is obviously a very nuanced way of looking at it. Also, guys, I am talking about some like little bit complicated well, not complicated, but not just, you may not be as familiar with it in terms of like buying and selling businesses. So like, please feel free to stop me as I'm talking, even to ask me questions about what I'm talking about. So but yeah, so most businesses generally sell for about 2 to 3 times revenue. um, this is a generalization. You know, you can also look at 4 to 5 times profit, but we're gonna look at the revenue numbers just because that's the generalization. Wait, I think I saw something in the chat. Yeah, so the seller's valuation is very iffy because, like I said, I consider it pre-revenue, right? So he has like $500 in revenue over the last 12 months, right? Which is really not much. And yeah, so that's why the revenue multiples are very nuanced in that sense, because like I bought Saucely at zero point 0.8 times revenue, right? So you can buy it for cheap, you can sell it for high depending on who you're selling it to. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
definitely, it's hard to say for sure.
I also remember that we asked him, how did you come up with this number? I think originally it was 5K and then you eventually lowered it to 3K. But he said that he was mostly using metrics used in the newsletter world. So perhaps that's where the valuation is coming from, not necessarily from the revenue multiple.
Yeah, that also I feel like, sure, you know, you can use metrics from the newsletter world, but it's just the price that's being pulled out, right? It is because like I said, you know, I consider this business pre-revenue, and for a pre-revenue business, it's very hard to give it a kind of asking price, right? So he's actually, so before he hadn't listed the business on Acquire. Since listing the business on Acquire, he's gotten a bunch of interest for the newsletter for above the price that we're buying it for. But because we already have that agreement, um, he's sticking with us for now. But yeah, so it is actually like, you know, there's a lot of different ways to value businesses, right? So somebody in the newsletter realm will pay $1 to $2 per subscriber, right? So that's the general value of newsletters when you look at them, $1 to $2 per subscriber. Like, and then if you look at like Morning Brew was sold for like 75 million or something like that. Like, I don't even know how they came to that price, right? It was like maybe one or two, like a couple million in revenue. So it's a lot of like underlying brand value as well. So depending on, okay, I spoke about this in the last meeting, but there are two different types of acquisitions: strategic acquisitions and financial acquisitions. So, financial acquisitions will generally be for a lower multiple because because they're just buying you for the revenue, right? Whereas strategic acquisitions, they're buying you also for your brand value, for the underlying IP, for a lot of different things. So, so that's when the multiple goes higher as well. So yeah, yeah, I hope that answered your question. Feel free to like ask me anything else if it did not. Awesome. So yeah, back to what I was saying. So if we want to sell this business for 15,000, we want a revenue of somewhere from 5 to 7.5K, right? And what does that look like per month? So let's just do 1000 divided by 12, 400 to 600. So that's what we need to make per month, right? In order to sell this business for $15,000. Okay? In order to make that per month, we have 4 editions per week, right? So every week we got to make about 100 to 150 bucks, right? So this is a very simplified breakdown of what we need to do. Now let's break this down a bit more. Let's say we have 2 revenue streams. The referrals, right? So subscriber referrals and ads, right? So at say for the referrals, yeah, Oscar, what's up?
Hey, so it sounds like we could take advantage. So we could take advantage of a number of revenue streams, or we could just grow users and end up selling it at the end of the process, just based on the number of users. I think $1
Yeah.
to $2 per subscriber sounds a little bit steep, but we could start thinking about, okay, like, correct me if I'm wrong, the newsletter is basically just products, right?
Yeah.
What if we start doing more content, maybe Star Wars memes, maybe other things, and try and grow, like, from an entertainment value side, just to get the subscribers up, but not really revenue up.
Yeah, actually, that's a really really great point, right? So I think that is definitely something that we're gonna want to try to start doing, right? Because we want to actually do both. We don't want to just be a media business, because we need to be making some kind of revenue, right? So that $1 to $2 per subscriber, that comes into play only once you have like a minimum of 10,000 subscribers. You're making like a few $100s in revenue. That's when like that comes into play, right? So there are definitely a lot of nuances around that. So we need to start making some kind of revenue in order to be able to grow growth, because up till now he doesn't have many, if any, organic channels of growth, right? Maybe he gets like a few hundred subscribers from the so let's actually look at, if we go back to the audience. So if we look at the last 4 weeks, he's like barely gained any subscribers. Oh wait, I'm sharing my screen, right? Okay, yeah. So he's barely gained any subscribers because he stopped running ads. So he doesn't have any organic channels. So we're definitely going to need to first start getting some kind of revenue in. And that's when we can kind of start pumping money into the growth wheel, right? Because there's a really effective growth wheel over here with the referrals. Oh wait, I can actually show you guys the referrals over here.
Okay. What do you think you can do to get that up?
So it should show up here, but I haven't seen it since in a while. But yeah, so basically with these referrals, it's a really strong okay, it's not loading right now, but it's a very strong customer acquisition channel because it allows us to then pay for continued growth, like you said, through Facebook ads, and by actually then it allows us to switch our monetization um, to premium subscribers, right? I think that even if every subscriber pays us like $1 to subscribe, we make more than double of the initial selling price back, right? So I think that's something that we do look at once we have some revenue, so that we can invest into, okay, let's pay the VA more to create different kinds of content. Because I think we also, like, it's great to talk about building something from the entertainment value, but you also need somebody who is like actively engaging with the community. You need someone who's like, who has a good knowledge of Star Wars, can create those memes, stuff like that. And that's what the Pocket Fund CEO and COO are about. That was something I was supposed to talk about as well. So yeah, so those roles will come under, basically we're gonna have like a Pocket CEO and a Pocket COO. These are just arbitrary position names, I just think they sound cool. But yeah, so y'all will be in charge of whoever, like, I'll have an application up for this on like Handshake, or maybe, yeah, on Handshake probably. And y'all will be running like a lot of this, right? Make a lot of the decisions on this side, stuff like that. But yeah, actually, I do want to finish this kind of breakdown of what we want to sell, right? So basically, we want to try to be gaining, let's say, you know 100 subscribers per week will give us like $60, right? I think it's more likely for us to look at that per month, so that's like $60 a month. And ads, I think we can sell it anywhere from 50 to $100 per issue, right? So just by doing this, we would, if we're able to get $100 per issue, we're already at the $400 per month, and we can sell this business for 15,000, right? It's not that straightforward, but it also kind of is, because if we are at this point, we probably are at a good level in our business where we can expect to sell this for 15,000. So that's the goal for us, is to like, how do we make $100 per week, right? Through this, however that is, through referrals, through because if we're making 100 referrals per week, that's almost $100 per week, right? So however that is, this is going to be our goal. So yeah. Do you guys have, we're coming to like almost the end. So I did have the meeting until 5:30, because I know that some of you guys had like questions about the search funders things. I mean, the search funders application. So I thought we could do that like after 5 o'clock. But yeah, I think until then, if you guys have any other questions about this business specifically, or about Pocket CEO or Pocket COO, if not, we can actually, like, make a decision on whether or not we want to send the LOI out for this business, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to share something super quick that I thought could be
Yeah.
an interesting opportunity. Can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah.
Let me see. So second window. Yeah, I was just looking at some future release dates, and I thought that this will be an interesting opportunity for gaining momentum. So keeping
That's
like
really
an eye on
smart.
like the new series that will be released, and maybe offering products related to these in particular, and keeping an eye on the video games that will be released. So yeah, just wanted to share that. I added the links to the document.
Yeah, that's really smart. I think, like, yeah, something that would be really important for kind of the Pocket CEO role is like a general knowledge of Star Wars. I think like just having some kind of like interest there is super helpful, because then it's not an extra effort to like be aware of all these things, right? They would ideally naturally already be aware of them, so yeah, I think that's a really, like, yeah, I think that there just is like a lot of potential with this business, right? Like reaching $100 per week with this business is not going to be hard at all, right? Just because of the number of different ways that we can do it. Um, but there is going to be that learning curve, right? There is going to be a lot of trial and error, right? Like some of the things that we've spoken about may not work as well as we've discussed. So yeah, I think that there are definitely nuances there to be aware of. But yeah, otherwise, what do you guys think? Should we send the letter of intent or not? Because I think that it makes sense, but I really want to hear your opinion here, even if it's just like, yes, let's go for it for sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one thing we definitely wanted those subscribers to know is that there will be a structural change in the newsletter in the future, but I don't know whether like it is necessary to let them know that like someone has acquired this newsletter. So I think maybe there is a risk, but we don't know whether it's good or bad. Like we might lost some of the subscriber by doing that. But we definitely want them to know that there will be some changes in the future.
Yeah, so I actually agree with that. I think that we want to get more personal with our subscribers. We want to be very honest that like, oh, we've bought this newsletter from the previous owner, where like a couple of college students, running this club where we buy and sell businesses. And yeah, just like being honest with them about it and being personal about it, I think will be like it'll be a powerful tool actually, because having an audience that's engaged and like invested in you is really powerful. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea to like build some personal
Yeah.
connection and yeah.
Yeah, no, I do really agree. And I think like, I actually think it will be less of a risk, because I don't think that they're really subscribed for the brand behind it, right? I think they're just subscribed for the products. So yeah, actually looking at Acquire itself a bit more. Yeah, Oscar.
I'm wondering how long the listing for this newsletter was up on Acquire, and did the seller take it down once you guys started talking about acquisition, or has it been up this whole time?
Yeah, so I actually found this deal not on Acquire. So
Oh,
I
okay.
found it off of Acquire through like so I post some stuff on Twitter. So people like tend to reach out to me with like businesses they have for sale. Um, so this was one of those, and yeah, I just found it really interesting. I was initially gonna buy it myself, but then at that time I didn't have the bandwidth, and this business is more of a fun business, right? I think that's why I really want to do it with Pocket Fund, because it will be like, it's something that you can get very creative with in terms of like the monetization opportunities, especially. um so yeah, so that's like, I asked him to list it on Acquire, and then it's been listed on Acquire for like basically since we started the process, so like
Really?
2-3 weeks ago, and since then he's gotten some interest, but yeah, I think he's open to sticking with his asking price with us.
Okay, and it was 3K,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So is this something where, if you go through with it and a month or even a semester down the line, we've gotten no progress, maybe it's even gone downhill a little bit, is this something you could still sell. You could just post it back up on Acquire and maybe
Yeah.
not take a huge loss.
Yeah. So hopefully that does not happen, but if it does, we can actually sell it back on Acquire, and that's what I like most about these micro startups is that a lot of them have resale value, right? Um, because like yes, we could easily get like even if it's at like 4 to 5 thousand subscribers, we could still sell this for like say 2.5K. you know I think like 50 cents per subscriber is a really good deal for most newsletter people. And like generally probably by just listing on Acquire, maybe not, but I do have like a couple of friends in like the newsletter space who run like multiple newsletter businesses, so I could probably just like convince one of them to buy it off of us. So that's actually something that's going to be really interesting for us to explore when we look at a selling, if we've actually once we've made some revenue, because I have direct access to a lot of like people who would be our ideal buyers. So that's going to help us out there as well.
Cool. Well, I guess with knowing that, I'm for it. I'm, thumbs up.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is actually what the process of buying a business looks like. So you evaluate the business, you make an offer in terms of an LOI. So this is where we're at. So we were doing this up till now, right? We were evaluating the business. Now we're planning to make an offer. So if that offer is accepted or rejected, then we go into the due diligence phase, right? So due diligence basically means that we like look at whether it's a legit business or not. So we already have access to the Beehive. So getting access to like the Facebook account, making sure that, running so there are these like softwares which you can run like social accounts through to make sure he's not like bought any followers, not buying engagement, stuff like that. So that's what due diligence will look like, right? It's like, okay, is this business legit? Has the revenue of so far been legit? Um, you know, what's the seller like, all that stuff. And then we finally go into escrow and close. So when we finally, decide on a final price, we're okay with the business, then we use a third party called escrow, where we send them the money and he sends them the business. And then once they receive both, they accordingly send him the money and send us the business, right? And then of course we're done, closed, happy and running the business. So yeah, that's a brief rundown of what the process will look like. Um, we're actually gonna send in a letter of intent right now, so that's like us making an offer, and after that we're gonna go into due diligence. So our next meeting will be all about actually looking at the business and, like I said, looking at whether it's legit or not. Maybe making some plans ourselves for the business, stuff like that.
Dev, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're mentioning how we're about to enter the due diligence phase and how we're going to look at a lot of the, I guess, financials of the company. I know that publicly traded companies have like financial statements, like the income statement and whatnot. But I'm wondering if this is true for private companies or if we're just going to look at their credit card history or stuff like that.
Yeah, so it depends what their payment. So most people have like a payment processor, either like Stripe, PayPal, stuff like that. So generally they give you access to that. So or their not their bank account as such, but just however they're accepting payments or making the money.
So that makes sense. But also more generally speaking, do private companies and startups have these sort of financials?
Yeah, but they
statements?
generally don't have like they don't keep accounts. It's like it's kept by the payment processor, right? So they can download it if they want to, but it's all tracked by the payment processor. So yeah, so you don't have like
Okay.
Excel sheets as such,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is what a sample like template LOI looks like, like, oh, we want to buy your company for so and so, and yeah. So I just want to show you guys. Now we'll actually build our own LOI. So Acquire makes this process really, really, really easy. So 3,000. we're gonna have additional payment terms post closing. You know, we'll probably have some kind of seller financing involved because we're still figuring out the legal setup of Pocket Fund, but we want to get started on the business. So yeah, so actually, we'll probably be sending him like $1,000 purchase at closing. Have some sort of seller financing. So actually, I don't know if I want to make it so complicated in the LOI. Okay, we're gonna restart that. We're not gonna use. We're just gonna keep it simple because so those are things that we'll probably use when we set up the final deal. So we'll have some kind of like. I actually don't want to pay him like 3K right off the bat. I want to do lesser upfront, do some kind of revenue share, leave a certain ownership percentage with him. I'll teach you all how to, as we get into the due diligence, how to think really creatively about these deals and how to maximize the value that we can get out of the deal and also out of the seller, right? And not, I don't mean that in the sense of like, squeezing him for value. I mean that in the sense of how do you structure the deal in such a way that both of your incentives are aligned in the right way.
What percentage do you expect him to hold?
Maybe like 5 to 10%, just because of like the, I think that would be mainly because of the legal things. um yeah, but I think like something like, yeah, 5-10%, so not a lot at all. uh, so what's his name? I forget. Okay, it's fine. We'll just include all these things later. But ideally, we want to include like a non-compete clause, non-solicitation clause, um, post post sale transaction services as well. So like you'll decide upon like a certain amount of time for the seller to continue giving you support. So all of this stuff will actually be decided in due diligence, right? We're gonna hammer out all of these specific details with the seller. You can add additional closing terms as well. So like, actually, let me show you guys. Uh, um, let me see if I can find. Like I did this one deal that had so many complicated additional closing terms. I didn't even understand what we were doing by the end of it. Okay, I can't find it. But you can have a lot of different additional closing terms, right? Like a certain amount of revenue share. Um, like you can even have like a certain amount of expectation of growth. Otherwise, like the seller has to pay you back something. Like there's a lot of different things you can do there. So we'll definitely want to explore this more once we get into due diligence. Yeah. Always Delaware, they have the easiest laws. Yeah, and let's download it to actually see what it looks like. So yeah, so this is what the LOI actually looks like. There's all these different purchase price, um, the conditions, all of these different things. But yeah, and then any objections before we sign this up? Oh, am I supposed to do this as a company? No, we don't have a company yet. Yeah, we sent the LOI. Awesome. So yeah, now the seller, it's up to him to review the LOI a bit, and yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on like what the next steps should look like, stuff like that. And yeah, that's it in terms of the Star Wars business. I did wanna like actually yeah, feel free to ask any more questions y'all have for the Star Wars business. But otherwise I did wanna talk about the search funders application if you guys are interested. But yeah. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, Armin, I know you had some questions for the search funders application.
Yeah, I was just curious to learn a little bit more. I've been kind of looking through Acquire to see if there's anything that's particularly interesting, but also wondering if you have any tips for like things to look out for. Also, I know there's other platforms like PitchBook where it's easy to find data on startups. Just wondering what you recommend, and if you do, what sorts of metrics we should be looking out for.
So you're looking right now at startups that would be sold for less than 25K, right? So I'd say Acquire, there's this other site called Microns, Biz Buy Sell, Flipper. All of these are different startup marketplaces. Actually, you wait, let me share my screen. Okay, I'll literally just Google like right. So you have Biz Buy Sell is pretty popular. Um, okay, all of these are Biz Buy Sell. Let's do startup for sale. Yeah, so Acquire, Biz Buy Sell, Flipper, Get Acquired, Microns, Startup Streams. So you just need to Google it, right? It's like there's a lot of different options. I'll say the best is definitely Acquire is awesome. There's a lot of filters, right, which are really really great, which other platforms don't have. So what I like most about Acquire is so specifically to answer a couple of your other questions. So basically, what I'd suggest you to do is go over here, put the max asking price to 25,000, right? And then add a couple of filters, right? So let's say you only want to look for a SaaS business, or maybe you only want to look for like an e-commerce business, right? So apply those filters. Um, Look for certain like okay, asking price low to high, filter it by that, look at what's available for low prices. Okay, so these are all like you can decide the asking price, but yeah, so basically play around with these filters, right? I think that there's a lot of different ways you can go about this, right? Some of my favorite ways to do it are number of customers, right? So anything that has over 1,000 customers, is probably like has something to it, right? So that's a great filter to use. Also, like by us, like profit multiple, right? You don't want to be paying like 20 times profit, right? So like limiting that in some way is always a good way to do it. Startup age, right? So anything that's been in, so actually like startups die out very quickly, right? So anything that's been alive for more than a year is probably a good business as well, right? And like Acquire has so many different random businesses. Like look at this. Like this is like CBD gummies. Okay, like this is so different to Sourcely, which is like a B2C SaaS student AI tool. There are businesses that are for super, super cheap. Businesses that like, why would you pay 24K for a business that's making no money? I don't know. But like, so it's definitely you have to use a lot of your own judgment, right? Like this business has a lot of revenue, right? And it's like low asking price, but then that's because the profit is also low, right? So maybe you want to look more into it. It's like you want to find stuff that has untapped potential, right? You want to find things that you think you can improve, right? Things that you think that okay, it's making some money, but I think there's a lot of slack there that you can improve upon, right? So yeah, I don't know if I answered your all of your questions, but yeah, Oscar.
Hey, just wondering if you could talk a little bit about search funders. I haven't heard about this yet.
Yes. Do I have? I actually made like a presentation. One sec. Let me see if I can open it up. Okay, I don't remember what I named it. Anyways, so it's basically gonna be so this is the application itself. So it's basically like I've found alumni investors who are willing to invest, let's say 5 to 25K to sponsor a student from CMC to go buy a business. So that would look like, so it would be an investment, not a donation like Pocket Fund. We would have like, let's say like a 60-40 equity split, 70-30 equity split to the investor. For you, this becomes like a risk-free way because there's no requirement for money from the student end. Of course, if the student can, even if you can give like $500, I think that really it will allow you to like increase how much equity you can ask for, right? Because you're also putting in some money into the business. So yeah, basically like a search fund, but like a CMC based search fund. So do you know what search funds are?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So essentially a search fund, but like smaller, specifically for like pocket fund, and yeah. So that's what
Okay.
it's going to be. This is what the application looks like. So just stuff like, okay, name, email, major, whatever. What is the business? What does it solve? A link, target market. What is your competitive advantage? Couple of different questions. What is your business plan? um, Couple of questions about like your end goal. How do you plan to exit? But this is not meant to be like, so don't think of this like, first of all, this is a rolling application. So I'm going to be running this for the next, basically until I leave. So like for the next 2 years approximately. Um I've gotten like a lot of interest from the investor side in terms of people willing to give money, because for a lot of people 10K isn't that much, and they find this like a really fun thing to do, right? Where they don't have to worry about the operations, right? So the operations come on to you, um, but then you get an access to like their network. You get them as a mentor. So I think there's a lot of advantage you get, right? So actually the first person who kickstarted this, he works at KKR, and he works in like, basically he does this, but like business is worth millions of dollars, right? And he does it for KKR. And he was just like he just like thought it would be so fun and so cool to actually run a small business, but he doesn't have the time to like do like, oh, reach out to sponsors for like $50 sponsorships, right? Like that's not worth his time at all, right? But it's something that he would find fun, right? So I think like there is that, they are of course looking for a financial return, but it's also in terms of like learning and enjoyment as well. Um, so yeah.
Cool.
So that
Sounds
is,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I have a question. So, would they, like the alumni who sponsored, view this application, or it will be like within our pocket fund?
So
They
I'm like the
maybe,
screener.
yeah.
So yeah, what I was saying was actually, it's like you can submit like you can submit multiple businesses. It's not like I'm saying like you only have to submit one, and it can be a trial and error, right? We can like, you submit a business, maybe I think there are some weak points in your business plan, right? Maybe I'm like, oh, have you thought about this aspect, that aspect? And I give you feedback, right? And then you can submit another application, right? So it's actually like, think of this as like an opportunity also to just, we can riff about a business, talk about how we see growing it. Maybe I see that like, okay, like this makes a lot of sense, but you need a co-founder, right? You need somebody on the technical side, right? So then I'll tell you, like, if you find a co-founder, then we'll accept you, right? So I'm like a screener, and then I'm basically like, so either I'll already have an investor, um a slash an alumni ready to like buy that business with you, or I'll circulate your application to like the people that have shown interest, and then one of them can pick, so I think ideally, especially initially, I'll have like investors ready, or like I'll be like directly myself reaching out. But once we have like, like the first three deals done, then I think it's going to be more like a broadcast, like I'll have like a certain database of investors. Applications can keep coming through. Whichever I find interesting slash promising, I'll just like send out to the database. Um, so yeah.
Yep, that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dev, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, how much alumni mentorship will we get from the people that are investing their capital into are running our business? And also, how much, like, I mean, I assume if we make a lot of profit, we'll get a little bit of money. But if we lose money, will it just fully come out of the investor's pocket?
So yeah, so you're buying the business, right? So let's say you buy it for 10K, that's all coming out from the investor's pocket. Um, if you lose the money, naturally that's out of like you don't have to cover it up or anything like that, right? So there's gonna be no risk to you in terms of like, having to pay for anything. But there is of course like you will be expected to, let's say, it's not going as well, to put the effort into, of course, unless you have invested yourself, yes. There will you will I will expect you to like put the effort into selling the business, right? So I will say that for sure, like, um be prepared to, if it doesn't go as well, to also put in the effort to offload the business as well. And none of that money will go to you, that will all go back to the investor. And what was your first question? How much mentorship, right? So
Yeah.
I think so. I'm gonna have a minimum of one session, one weekly session, so like an hour a week, and it's up to the investor to give more or less, right? I think that there is a lot of potential in, once actually the business is doing well, you form a great relationship with the mentor to get a lot more of that. But that's not required, right? The requirement is like 1 hour per week, and anything on top of that is up to the investor and up to like the relationship with you form. But there's definitely, like, you're going to be running a business together, right? Your success is going to be together, your failure is going to be together. That tends to, it's a very very good format to form, it's a very good mentorship opportunity, right? Like, it's a great environment to learn under somebody who's much ahead of you.
Dude, I completely agree with you. That sounds like so awesome if it's actually implemented. But like, have you talked to the alumni investors who have said that they're willing to give some capital and seen how much mentorship they are willing to give? Because like an
Yeah.
hour a week is a lot.
Yeah. The minimum is, so I'm also I don't I like this. There's a fair bit of people who, like, 10K is not a lot for a lot of people. So there's a fair bit of people who are willing to give this. So I'm gonna be choosing people who I genuinely think are gonna be invested in. Like, I don't like, they shouldn't be in it for the money, right? Like, for a lot of the for anybody who's willing to give like 10K to a random college student, even if that 10K becomes like 50K, it's not gonna make a crazy dent in their bank account, right? So you do have to realize that like they are doing this more for the enjoyment and more for the
Yeah.
interest than the financial gains. So inherently, like, the investors themselves inherently are going to be people who are looking to do this more for interest and enjoyment rather than just financial gain. But then of course, as we actually grow this, you know there's a lot of potential for people to like 50K businesses, 100K businesses, right? So as we go higher, of course, there will be more of the importance on financial returns. But yeah, I think initially I'll be choosing investors as well, mainly based on interest. So yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, do you guys have any other questions or anything else I can help y'all with? Yeah.
So you mentioned that the alumni, the investors will give a lump sum of money for buying business, but I was also wondering, will there be capital available for investing in the business? So for instance, let's say an alumni gives you 8K. Will there also be the possibility for them to give you an additional 2K for you to reinvest in the
Yeah.
business and grow it?
So ideally, actually, I'm gonna have the amount the alumni is gonna have to invest is gonna be higher than the selling asking price. So, if you're buying a business for 10K, they're gonna give you 12.5K, something like that, right? So obviously, like, I think we're gonna take this on a business by business basis, but there will definitely, and actually, like, this is not gonna be like you're gonna like the search funder is gonna like I'm gonna wanna like you and the alumni are gonna wanna meet, like discuss how do y'all wanna structure this deal, what are the expectations. There should be like a like a bonus based system, right? Like if you do really really well, like I've taken Saucely from 4K to 100K in just like 3 months, right? If you do that well, you don't want to just own 30%, right? You should own at least half, ideally more than that, right? So you should we will definitely be making this out in such a way that it's a very incentivized based system, and it's not just focused on like having a very straightforward way of thinking about it, right? It's going to be like it's going to be dynamic, and there's going to be a lot that's going to be rigged in your favor, because the alumni themselves are not like they're not looking to get the most financial return they can out of this, right? So I'm actually opening this up to like outside of just CMC, so that looks very different, right? Over there the emphasis is a lot more on financial return, it's a lot less on like this mentorship stuff like that. But for the CMC version of this, the focus is on learning, on having fun with it, and like developing like a mentor type relationship. So yeah, but that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up.
Then in terms of the team, you mentioned that in some cases you will require a co-founder, but do you have a minimum size requirement in a way? Or you can be a solopreneur?
Yeah, so I think if the business is above 20K, um, we'll have a requirement of like 2 people, or maybe above 15K. But generally, you need some way to show that you can handle the technical aspects, right? Because most, unless of course it's not a technical business, right? Then even if it's like a drop shipping business, right? You need to show some way, like some kind of experience with handling physical goods, or like some way to do that. Because yeah, I think otherwise, like just having a co-founder is a really powerful thing, but many people want to do this alone. It is like if you're buying a business for 5K, like you don't really need 2 people, right? But that being said, we bought Saucely for 4K, right? So like the potential is out there, the deals are out there, I post about a lot of this stuff. So like definitely give my Twitter a look, or my LinkedIn. I post a lot of content around like businesses I come across, how I find them, um, what you should look for, stuff like that. And yeah, and like please feel free to like email me if you have any questions. There's a specific business you want to discuss. You just want to hop on call before you send in your application. Like more than happy to. Like I really want this to be like just about learning and just like a cool opportunity. Yeah, awesome. If you guys don't have any other questions, we are just coming into 5:30, so feel free to drop off if you want to. But yeah,
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
awesome. Thanks a
you.
lot for
Thank you
joining,
so much.
guys. See y'all.
See you.
Oh, wait. Oh,
What's up?
what's up, Marco?
I'm back.
I'm also back then.
What's up, bro?
What was I gonna ask you? Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Never mind. I didn't actually have a question. I was just thinking about your last point about. I'm gonna look through like your Twitter. Is that the best place to look at how you're reviewing these types of startups?
Yeah, definitely my Twitter.
Okay, and then maybe in a few weeks, once I find a startup, since I'm planning on maybe starting in the winter, if that works, then we can hop on a call before I send in my application.
Yeah, for sure. So like definitely like a there's gonna be like you're gonna go through like the negotiation, LOI, due diligence, all of that, right? So between you actually sending the application to you being accepted will be like couple weeks at least, and then from you being accepted to you, like let's say finishing the deal is at least a month and a half, right? So definitely
Okay.
plan for that timeline as well.
Okay, I'll start looking right now, and maybe in like then that makes it okay. So then maybe in a week or two we can hop on a call if I find something.
Yeah, whenever, and like it can totally be like,
Oh,
yeah, it can be like you can send me multiple things. I can send you voice
cool.
notes about them. Yeah, it doesn't need to be very. Yeah, you don't need to have like the perfect idea right off the bat.
Thanks, bro. And also, I'll be in town from Wednesday to Sunday. Do you wanna like? Can I come to the SVP office or something?
I'm actually gonna be in Vegas on Wednesday, and then
Okay.
Dude,
yeah, because it's Thanksgiving, so why not? And then I'm actually coming to Claremont, so we may do next week's session in person if anybody is in town. Because I think Sunday many people will be back, so we could do it.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
I'll be back on Sunday.
Yeah, and then I think I think just meetings are a lot easier. Like if I think with like a whiteboard and stuff would be like so much better. I should actually last time I had done it with my iPad. I think that was nice, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dev. See you.